We'd like to begin with a word prayer together. Would you like to pray for us? No. Let's kneel together after prayer.
Can't hear.
Father, we're so thankful for what we have accomplished here this morning and what we are about to learn, Lord Jesus. Father, in this time, we really need you. We didn't come here to play church. We come here to get invocation with you. So if you see there's anything that we are lacking, oh Lord, bring our thoughts back. Help us to know your coming is at the door and you're calling us back to be one people. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
One thing I wanted to add to the drawing here is that, remember Nebuchadnezzar came in 3 times, and then there were 3 calls to come out of Babylon, and then there were 3 entrances here. There are 3 calls to come out of Babylon. The first is 1517 during the Reformation, when the call was to come out of papal Rome. Martin Luther identified the papacy as Babylon, and that there was a need to come out of Babylon then. 1844, the Protestant churches fell, and there was a call to the second angel's message to come out of Babylon, out of Protestant Babylon. And then, when the 3 angels' messages are repeated soon, when the 3 angels' messages are repeated, Revelation 18, 1 through 4, that will be the 3rd call to come out of Babylon the Great. So this call was coming out of papal Rome. This one especially out of Protestant Babylon. And this one, Babylon the Great. So there are 3 calls to come out there. And to me, that how God works in history in repeating the same pattern is very interesting. Okay? And merciful.
Brother Patrick, the third call is not based on time, it's just based on events, correct?
It will probably be after the Sunday law,
Right.
during that Sunday law period.
When I said time, I meant prophetic time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's no more time.
there's no more time prophetic,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, so it's just the event. So after the Sunday law. Now let me ask this, because we're going through this study, and I would like for Brother Patrick, because some of you might have the same inquiries. Is this call coming after the enforcement of a national Sunday law? Because when you look at the Blair bill that took place in 1888, it was just that it was on the books. It was called the Blue Law. It's still called the Blue Law today. So it's on the books, brothers and sisters. So we're looking at some legislation that will once again be brought about to give enforcement to the National Assembly law. Am I correct? Am I on the right path with this, Brother Patrick, in terms of your understanding, or is something different you need to add? I just want to get clarity relative to this.
Well, in my mind, it will be a national Sunday law. Right now, there's a lot of state laws, but they're not a national law.
Right.
And so it will be a law that's not there. It will be agitated to be made.
Agitated to be, okay.
Yeah, that's how I understand it.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that the word south in the Hebrew means a dry, parched place, like a desert. And so north and south are not just geographical directions in the Hebrew, they're spiritual descriptions. And I just wanted to also put the dates for the fifth and sixth trumpets. That's when the Ottoman Empire, the Muslims arose in 606, and their power ended in 1840. Okay. That was the fifth and sixth trumpet period. The seventh trumpet will be during the plagues. The sounding of the seventh trumpet began in 1844, but and where the mystery of God will be finished. That's finishing of the work of the gospel in the heavenly sanctuary in the most holy place. Now, we'll have one more thing to put up here, but first we're going to look at Revelation 17. Well, I should say, I want to ask you this question. Let me turn this around. We're going to look at something else in Daniel and Revelation, I guess, first. I want you to give me first, can you tell me and all the beasts that you can think of in Revelation? And if you don't blurt it out, just raise your hand if you have a beast that you want to tell. Okay.
Bear.
In Revelation.
The dragon.
Okay, the dragon. And can you give a Bible verse for that?
And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to ask for you to take this, the red dragon, and could you sit up here? Just sit up here in this front row and hold on to that. Okay, anyone else name a beast in the book of Revelation? Brother Gordon.
The two-horned beast, Revelation 13:11.
Okay, two-horned beast. In Revelation what?
13:11.
Okay, 13:11. And I put here that it represents Protestant America. But it's also called by a name, another name.
Leopard.
No?
Male-like beast.
No. Also has another name. Revelation 16:13. It says the false prophet. Yeah. So would you like to come up here and hold this? Oh, by the way, the two-horned beast points to. But we'll just hold on to that. Hold on to that. Just say something about the dragon. The dragon primarily represents Satan, but secondarily represents pagan Rome. Remember, Satan is the original, or the usurper, king of the north. Same thing here. Okay. Can anyone else think of a beast in the book of Revelation?
7 heads and 10 horns.
Raise your hand. And have a Bible verse when you to read. And
Revelation chapter 1, 13 and verse 1. 13:1.
Okay, Revelation 13:1, and what's the name of the beast?
And I stood upon the sands of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy.
Okay, that's the beast representing papal Rome. And would you come up here and hold on to this one? Anyone else?
Beast
beast from the bottomless pit.
Okay.
I was in the wrong chapter.
And where is that
Not
from?
Revelation 13. I was looking at Revelation 13, but it's not Revelation 13. I'm trying to find it right now.
Can anyone find where the beast from the bottomless pit is?
9:2.
Yeah, no,
9:2.
9:2?
Revelation 9:2.
No. The bottomless pit is mentioned there, but not the beast from the bottomless pit. This is a beast that many Adventists don't think about, but it's an important one. We did cover it this morning.
Yeah, no, but.
When you mentioned Darwin, stuff like that.
Yes,
the theories.
And it's spiritual. It's called spiritually Egypt.
Yeah, Sodom and Egypt.
Okay, I'll give you the answer. It's called. It's in Revelation 11. Atheism. Beast out of the bottomless pit. I'll let you hold on to that one. Okay. Now we go to Daniel 7. Can anyone think of a beast from Daniel 7? Someone said it. Oh, you said it, but a beast from Daniel 7.
Lion.
No one in the front row can talk anymore. Daniel 7, you should at least open your swords and look at the first verses there.
7 verse 4.
Four great beasts,
Yes?
that's on 7 verse 3.
Yeah? Can you name one?
4.
And the first was like a lion.
Okay, a lion. Come up here and hold this. Read it
The
again.
first was like a lion.
Okay, come on here, up here and hold this one. And find a seat in the front row. And this line represents Babylon, doesn't it?
Babylon.
I'm giving away the answers. Anyone else have a beast?
A bear.
The bear. Come on up here and hold on to the bear. The bear represents who? Medo-Persia. Pass that down to her. Someone else. The office. You got one? What? Some other beast. We got 3 possibilities. What's that? Little horn right here. Papal Rome, come up here and sit on the front row.
Verse 6.
And hold it a minute. We'll get. The leopard. Come on up here and get the leopard. The leopard. By the way, Theophilus, who does the little horn represent?
Papa Rome.
Papal Rome. Very good. Sit up here, and the leopard represents Greece, and we got one more. We got one more.
Come on, Henry. Let's go back forward.
One more from Daniel 7. Yes, the 4th dreadful beast, which represents what? Pagan Rome. Okay, now. Now the remaining people can help them, because this is what they're to do next. I want you to I want you to, you know how in Pathfinders we would go dress right dress and we'd go like that? And we'd space people out, you know. I want you to be an arm's length from someone, but I want you to be in order. Hold your card up, and if you're the first world empire, stand over there, and if you're the last one, go over there and just get in order now. All you just get in order, and if you guys see where they should be, you can tell them to get to where they should be. But hold your cards out like this, and be an arm's length from everyone. Yeah, the first one is over there. Yeah, okay, looking good. The office, I don't think you're in the right place.
So you're number one.
I'm number one.
Hold your cards out. Hold your cards so that people can see. You're gonna hold this like this and find your place. Look at people. And the audience is to help the office find his place. He needs help finding his place. Space yourselves out a little bit.
Okay, primary is Satan.
Space yourselves out a little bit there in the beginning. You need a little space there.
Red dragon, so that's Satan.
So you're next to.
I'm next to
You might overlap. Sometimes you might overlap.
Red dragon.
Paper room. Yeah, I think I'm in the middle of this paper room.
Now, do you think,
Oh, this theology. Oh, these theologies that came out of here. Somewhere around pagan Rome time frame.
okay, one of the principles,
These theologies are in the middle somewhere.
one of the principles is that the bear conquered the lion, right? Greece conquered Medo-Persia. Rome conquered that. What came after a pagan Rome?
Sister Son.
Okay. No, she's right. She's right there. You're overlapping. You're overlapping.
Revelation 12.
Yeah. They're both pagan. Papal Rome came next, but what power gave the Papal Rome a deadly wound? What power gave the deadly wound? Right, so you're right. You're right in there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
You're
Somewhere
over
here.
there. Okay.
These theologies are in this mix.
Okay.
Somewhere
Now,
in America.
Those that overlap kind of get real close together. There's two that overlap. No, you're not overlapping.
I thought I was overlapping. I was about to lean on.
There's two papal Romes and two pagan Romes. See, in Daniel 7, there's a pagan Rome. In Revelation, there's a pagan Rome. So they overlap. In Daniel 7, there's the little horn, papal Rome, and there's the beast, papal Rome. So they overlap there. So you guys get close together. Stay close together. Brother Mendez, you a little far, you get some space. Brother Gordon, get a little space there. Good. Now, what you have done now, you have identified the seven heads of Revelation 17. You just get all the beasts in Daniel 7, Revelation, put them in order. You have the seven heads of Revelation 17. But
There are 8 of them.
there's 8.
There's 8, yeah.
One gets a deadly wound, and it says the 8th is of the 7.
9.
Revelation 17:10.
What's that?
9 of them.
There's not?
No.
Oh, that's because there's two.
There's two
reviews.
overlaps.
No,
So one of you, or both of you, can like drop out of sight, but then you move over here, and then you pop back up here. And so you had the deadly wound, but the deadly wound is revived. And so now, Brother Gordon, who is Protestant America,
I have
You're-
moved.
you're the last two powers on planet Earth. And you're pointing the world to worship the beast whose deadly wound is healed.
Yes.
Okay? And so now you have identified the 8 heads in Revelation 17.
That was off the first 7.
Verse 7, yeah, it was, so the dragon that has 7 heads, it's head number 4. Papal Rome is head number 5, but it gets a deadly wound from the beast out of Balaam's pit. Atheism. Atheism is still the power right now.
Right.
But at the Sunday law, Protestant America is falling, and its fall will be complete at the Sunday law. Protestant Babylon's fall is complete at the Sunday law. And Papal Rome's rise from the deadly wound will meet at the Sunday law too.
Right.
And then during that short space, the two-horned beast and Papal Rome are the 2 last powers on planet Earth. And then Jesus will come. Jesus is the 5th kingdom, the 5th everlasting kingdom. Rome is the 4th kingdom. And Protestant America and Papal Rome will battle Christ and his people at the end. And they will be so they're the last 2 earthly powers on planet Earth. And right now we're in the time of still the heyday of atheism. One thing I wanted to, that's Revelation 11, Revelation 12. Do you remember what the angel that comes down in Revelation 10, he has a little book open. What does he say to John to do with it? Eat it. That's in Revelation 10. That's over here. Right? So when he eats it, then he starts seeing beasts. And one of the beasts in chapter 13 looks like a bear, looks like a lion, looks like a bear, looks like a leopard, and gets his power and seat and great authority from pagan Rome. So this is the index beast of the first 4 heads from Daniel 7. So it's showing that almost the first 5 heads, Papal Rome is the 5th head. So this is like the table of contents of the first four heads here in Revelation 13. When Daniel eats that little book, he starts seeing the things from Daniel. When John eats that little book, he starts seeing things from Daniel, and things from Daniel start popping up in Revelation. Yeah. So,
Brother Patrick, wouldn't this be beautiful, Brother Forrest, if we could take our young children with these type of cards and start to break this thing down and teach them what this is all about? This would be powerful. Powerful.
So this is a simple way to,
Yeah.
and it's biblical, it's right from the Bible, it's not guessing, it's not popes or anything. You see in Revelation 13, the last 2 powers are the beast and the America.
Yeah.
And so atheism has to be head number 6. And that's, we're living in that world right now.
This is good exercise.
Okay, now here's something else that's very interesting. Did you know that in Daniel 11, you have the 7 heads here? First was Babylon. Babylon's not seen in Daniel 11. Because Daniel 11 begins with Medo-Persia. And we saw that verse 2 was for Medo-Persia. Verse 3 through 14 was for what? What world power? Verses 3 through 14? That'd be Greece. And then 15 through 28? That was pagan Rome. And then 29 through 39, from 508 to 1798. What power was that? That was Papal Rome. So now we're up to head number 5 here in Daniel 11. And then Daniel 11 gets a deadly wound from the king of the south. And who is that? The king of the south is the same as the beast from the bottomless pit. And so here is the beast from bottomless pit. Or I'll just put atheism. Because atheism is king of the south and beast from the bottomless pit. And it lasts all the way till 1989. And when this happens, 1989 to 91, when king of the north is battling against atheism and all those countries fall, that's papal Rome, right? But he's working with, remember that Time magazine, the Holy Alliance?
Ronald Reagan and what? John Paul II.
Yeah. Time magazine had a picture, Reagan and the Pope, and it just said how, and it had Holy Alliance, how Reagan and the Pope worked together for the demise of communism. So that was seventh and eighth head battling the sixth head. And the papacy uses the United States military and economic. That's the ships, the horsemen, and the chariots in Daniel 11:41. So the United States is the Pope's vassal. Remember during the Dark Ages, the king of the south, the papacy had the king of France, the king of England as his vassals. Today, the United States is his vassal. So I'll put USA. And the papacy here. Since 1929, the papacy has been reviving. What happened in 1929?
Mussolini gave back the seat to the Vatican.
Yeah. Mussolini, Hitler's cohort, made a treaty with the Pope to give the Pope back and create a country called Vatican City. And so now then countries could send their ambassadors to Vatican City, or really the Holy See, and his power began to grow. In 1984, just before this time, the United States for the first time sent an ambassador to the Holy See. And I say the Holy See because I want you to know that it's not Vatican City that they're sending an ambassador to. Because the Holy See it's the church that controls Vatican City. It's not Vatican City that controls the church. And it's totally against the Constitution. And so you never hear that we're sending an ambassador to the Holy See, but that is what's happening. And it's against the Constitution. So here is the papacy and the United States working together. Really, since 1984, the United States under Reagan has been the Pope's vassal, doing the Pope's bidding. We send an ambassador to them, they send an ambassador to Washington. So here you have head number 1, head number 2, and this is in Daniel 11. Head number 3, head number 4, head number 5, head number 6, and the papacy had the deadly wound here in 1798, but it's reviving. And the United States was here 1517, it was the Protestants, and God wanted to use the Protestants to give the three angels' messages. But then they rejected the first angel's message, and so really, they, in 1844, they started going back down, and their fall will be complete at the Sunday law. And the papacy's rise is complete at the Sunday law, and together, in Revelation 17, they have power for a short space, it says, for a short space. And there will be warring against Jesus, but Jesus has the seventh plague to bring it all down, He's Cyrus that will dry up the river Euphrates. He conquers Babylon the Great. So in Daniel 11 is very much parallel with Revelation 17.
In all my life reading the Daniel and Revelation by Uriah Smith and those men, Daniel chapter 11 never made any sense to me. I couldn't make head or tails of it. Reading the gems of Daniel and the Revelation is the first time the book of Revelation made sense. Not the book of Revelation. Daniel chapter 11 finally made sense. Today, looking at this, it just makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It's as clear as crystal.
The papacy that comes here, it looks like a lion. It looks like a bear. It looks like a Greece. It's like the table of contents for the first four beats. And this is the one that's kind of Adventist, and most people don't know too much about. But if you read the chapter, French Revolution and Great Controversy, it's about atheism.
That's in our book, so we have no excuse.
Yeah. And see, Obama is representing more this side of. Then George Bush was back over here, and Bill Clinton was back over on this side. It kind of has that battle. The battle going on in the United States is kind of has this too. Trump's over here, obviously. Atheism almost wiped out Protestantism in the United States. If Trump didn't win last election, this prophecy, there would be no Protestantism left to come back with. And so Protestant America is in its last gasp kind of throes. They're doing everything they can to regain its power too here in America. So.
Yes, Jones. I was listening to a Bible teacher this week, and he was teaching that in 1954, Protestant America, apostate Protestant America, got their deadly boom when Lyndon Johnson passed the Johnson Amendment. And now it appears that their womb is about to be healed, since under President Trump, they're saying they won't enforce the Johnson Amendment, and they're looking to make it where they can do away with it forever. I don't know how that sounds to you.
I don't think that's right. To their mind, they want church and state back together. But to Johnson Amendment said that they could not use the church to talk about politics. That's the way it should be.
Yeah,
separation. The death blow to Protestantism is in the family. The family just let television take over, where atheism comes in right into the house. And but like Daniel, Shadrach, and Meshach, they maintained their loyalty to God. And that's what children should have been taught, and I should have done better myself. When I went to school, you couldn't pray or anything, but I could always pray. When there was a test, I'd have a silent prayer. No one ever barred me from praying in public school. So that's not the problem. The problem to me is that the homes became worldly, and Protestantism is the Bible and the Bible only. But that's the afternoon lesson I wanted to share. To me, it's really Daniel 11 and Revelation 17 parallel. It's pretty amazing.
Since you finished early, Elder, a few weeks ago we had a Bible teacher here, and he taught from Daniel 11 that the king of the north in Daniel 11 was Turkey. And could you just say something on that, why it couldn't be Turkey?
Cyrus, again, Daniel 11 starts with Cyrus, Daniel 10 verse 1. Cyrus dried up the river Euphrates and conquered Babylon. And actually he conquered it there. Yeah, he conquered it there. But the Daniel 11 starts in the third year of Cyrus. Cyrus dries up the river Euphrates. He's a type of Christ, who in those 7 last plagues, the Euphrates River is dried up. So to me, this is like how God works with different patterns and start and finish, So Cyrus here will conquer Babylon the Great, just like Cyrus did there. So it can't be Turkey. Here in verse 29, it says the king of the north is coming in to the south, but it's not like the former, and it's not like the latter. And so the former, Jesus is broken, the Prince of the Covenant. The latter, we know, the latter is where he tries to hide Christ in the most holy place. And so it's an attack on Christ in the holy place, and it goes back especially to Daniel 8:10. And so this shows Daniel 11 is parallel to Daniel 8 and 9, which the last powers are the little horn, pagan and papal Rome. Turkey's not in there. Also, Gabriel gives Daniel 11 as an further explanation of Daniel 8 and 9. And he's going to keep the same pattern as in Daniel 8 and 9, not throw in another geographical Turkey power. Gabriel would just tell Daniel the same thing as he did about Daniel 8 and 9. Just like James White said.
The new teaching or revive. What's the term? The Eastern
question.
The Eastern question. So, now we have a more clearer picture to refute that is so. When the brother was here, we showed him as best as we could, but they would, as I shared with you this morning, he said he came to your home and you and him had a good talk.
Brother Gordon.
My prayer, Brother Patrick, is that with the scholars, those that are studying the Word of God, David Gates made a statement here on his last presentation, or one before, at the door. He says, if we're searching for truth, God will not leave us in England. And I think he mentioned the upper room experience. And I'm praying the same thing, even though we got 2 schools of thought here relative to the King of the North, because I've heard you, Brother Patrick, I've studied it from Uriah Smith's book, just like Brother Forrest, and I'm now going through your study. But my prayer now is that for all of those that are humbling themselves to be led and to be united by the Spirit of God, that God will bring us all in one accord. I believe that this is going to happen, but it requires us to have acts of humility as we're going through. That means that we need to have ourselves open to be taught new things, or to go back and to review, like the pioneers and Ellen White did many times. They prayed many nights and they studied to be on one accord. And I think as we're going through, it really presents the beauty of God and the teachings of God through the Spirit. Even though, someone may not be totally right, the mere fact that we're in this thing together and God is about to have a people to preach the same message. So, go ahead, brother.
One thing he reminded me was that you're talking about people studying together.
Yes.
In 1844, you can't see it now with so much on here, but the Adventist Church recovered everything from Christianity. The true God, the true Jesus, the sanctuary, the true sanctuary, the Sabbath, the gospel.
Yes.
I mean, what else? The state of the dead.
Right.
The truth about hell.
Yeah.
Everything. It was.
Righteousness by
This
faith.
was like a. This was from the Dark Ages. This was all Dark Ages, and then people started studying. 1798, the book was open. Daniel was open. By 1840, and even it had to be after the disappointment, because after the disappointment, after they came out of Babylon, God taught them about the state of the dead. Then after the disappointment, they learned the Sabbath and the sanctuary. So by 1848, a burst of, it was like how can you describe it?
A supernova.
A supernova of light into the world. And I grew up as an Adventist, and I'm almost apologizing. You just feel like we're just little Adventists or something. But this was a theological, historical, like Nobel Prize-winning magnitude of a feat for little humble farmers doing it and stuff. Unbelievable. So the light here was equivalent to when the first 100 years when the disciples were here with Jesus.
Okay.
After that, it was falling into apostasy. Now we're at the light, but now the Adventist Church is falling with the agreement made in 1955 and 56. It's falling, but when the three angels' messages are repeated with great power, then it will be even 10 times.
So now, Brother Patrick, as we're seeing now, the three angels' messages is about to be preached along with the 1888 experience of righteousness by faith or justification by faith, where we just had just little areas of what God did do during that time. But now, as he did in 1844, is going to be far greater than that that he's about to do with the three angels' message. And am I correct to include in the three angels' message in verity also justification, righteousness by faith?
Yes, that's the faith of Jesus.
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, I brought some books on gems from Galatians. And it's the writings of A.T. Jones, E.J. Wagner, and Ellen White.
Wow.
Through the book of Galatians. And
wow. Okay. Yes.
So we need to repeat the 1888 message as well, the faith of Jesus.
Yes.
What challenges me is that if you type north in your search, or you go into a concordance, almost all the reference to King of the North, people of the North, in Jeremiah reference either directly Nebuchadnezzar by name, or the activities that Babylon did to Israel, like take them captive, or what Jesus did to Babylon after they took them captive and did excesses. I am going to punish the people of the North. If Babylon is not the king of the North, when did it happen? Because now we are living beyond the activities that we saw the king of the North would do, especially to the glorious land. We are almost at the end. We are at the end. When is it going to be fulfilled? When is this king of the North, if it be Turkey, when is that going to appear? Because the activities that the king of the North should have done, that time has passed. So are we going to go into another cycle of history where Turkey is going to arise and do this thing to God's people again? It has happened. If you look at what transpired this week regarding the Adventist Church, hospital and college, we know that is not supposed to happen. That and Psalm 91 cannot coexist unless someone has failed, and we know who has failed. It means judgment has already begun. The Seventh-day Adventist people are approaching their probation. The climax is right before us. when is this king of North Turkey going to appear? It cannot be. There's no time left for that to occur anymore. The time has passed. And the only thing fulfilling the requirements of the tussle between the king of the north, the king of the south, going through the glorious land and all of that is Babylon. It fulfills the requirements of the prophecy to the very letter. It satisfies all the demands, and it puts us where we are today, which is past that picture you have on the screen, the Holy Alliance.
Oh, you got it. Huh?
You see? So that's now history.
Yeah.
The church now, I don't even know what to say of the Seventh Adventist Church. Sister Sands asked a question earlier. Here you have independent ministry after independent ministry without any organized body saying do this and do that, simply forsaking the wretchedness of the organized conference system and moving out. I think the latest of which is Doug Batchelor. When is all of this going to be reversed if we are going back? And why doesn't the spirit of prophecy say something to that effect? The Lord will not do anything unless He reveals His secret unto His prophets. What I see now is the shaking, and these are the last events. You're either shaken out from among God's people, or you remain with the corruption. There are two bodies in Adventism. There are two religions. One that is not keeping God's commandments and have no regard for His laws, His precepts, His statutes, His judgment, and one set that are determined to try their very best and walk with the thus saith the Lord. I have never seen any diversion like this before. Even if there's a church break, there is someone who breaks away as a leader and carries some of the people with them, and they form a new church and it grows. But where is the leader for the independent ministry?
The Holy Spirit.
Exactly. There is no unified body to say we are in one accord. Doug Batchelor over here, Enriquez over there, Forerunner over there, Nerino Ministries over here, and so on and so forth, all around the world.
Here's something. When the Protestant churches came out of Babylon, 1517, God wanted to use them to give the three angels messages, but they fell away. They fell away, and then 50,000 came out of the. That was Protestants coming out. They fell, and then in 1844, the second angel's message was given, and the Adventists came out. 50,000. They came out here. But now they're falling. And so we see here that the last coming out will be the final one. And the Sunday law is given in great light and power.
So isn't that the last one coming out now?
That will be the last, it's a repeat of the three angels' messages, the final warning to be given to the world. That's the last time.
So we're at the last time?
We're at the last time.
Exactly. So any of the prophecies that have not yet been fulfilled regarding the kings of the north and so on, when is that going to be?
Well, it'll be too late.
It will be too late.
Yeah.
So it must have been fulfilled already.
Yeah. Turkey is not involved in that.
Well, my comment is concerning the king of the north. The Bible tells us in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 18, it says, "But the path of the just is as a shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day." Proverbs chapter 4, verse 18. And even the prophecies is as light that shineth brighter and brighter into the perfect day. So when you look at Turkey, even around that time, I believe there were some developments of warfare that were taking place around the time when the pioneers, when they were studying that prophecy. So, in a sense, they did not fully see the development of Daniel chapter 11, especially the latter parts. You know, so as they were seeing the developments of warfare taking place in those geographical locations, because at that time the deadly wound, the papacy, the king of the north, had not fully awakened to its power. In 1989, communism was still, in a sense, ruling. So when those prophetic developments, as they were studying these things around that, the northern regions, as it were, became to them as a sign of fulfillment of that prophecy. So this is why we must build up on that foundation, because Isaiah, I believe it says, "They that shall be of thee shall build up the old waste places." So we have to build up on the foundation of the apostles, the prophets, and even Christ Jesus, the chief cornerstone. So what they have given us, we have to take that and study even deeper and build up on it. So we're gonna just remain, with the old light, as it were. But we have to take that light and build up on it. So
one thing about the Muslims is that the fifth and sixth trumpet talk about their rise and the end of their power in 1840.
Right.
And they gave their power to the 4 Christian nations to be protected by him. Since that time, I think the Christian nations have still have the Muslim powers under its control. And Trump kind of showed that with putting a stop to ISIS. What the Muslims did was to check the papacy and allowed the Protestant Reformation to grow.
Right.
And I think that might be one of the things that the Muslim uprising a little bit has helped, is to keep the 3 angels' messages alive, to really. So the focus is not on God's people.
Right.
Brother Patrick, in the French Revolution, when the papacy received its deadly wound, one of the things, as I'm reading and going through it, its persecuting power of the state was taken from it, correct?
Yeah.
Now, can we ascertain now that the persecuting power has been given back to the papacy since Reagan's time, since the or is it a later date that we're looking at? Because it needs that persecuting power to be able to move forward, to become in the position that it needs to be as king of the north and the papal power. Its power is rising, but it will be at the Sunday law where the power to persecute will start. Yeah. Okay.
And the way that it happens is the same way the United States has always worked with other countries. First, general, you have to do this, and if you don't, we're going to apply sanctions, and then if that doesn't work, we're coming in to kill. So those 3 steps: regular Sunday law, buy and sell, and then the death decree. But that's what happened to Haiti, I remember. Clinton said, I think about Aristide, you have to send him back up, was it, or something? And if you don't, we'll put economic sanctions, and then they send in the troops.
Exactly. That's the method. Even with North Korea, you see it to a certain degree, because the first thing was denuclearization. First it was sanction, and then denuclearization. If you denuclearize your country, then we can be your friend. And that's what happened to Gaddafi as well. because after he denuclearized, they came in and they took him out. So it's been in the books, and the interesting thing is they've used it over and over again, and people have not seemed to cut up to it.
But I think this time, Brother Patrick, Brother Jaseni, I think they're going to get opposition. We understand that the great republic that we have will be overturned, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of opposition in this country, and even warfare and giving up the guns. That one there, it's not going to be without bloodshed.
Right.
That has begun. Yesterday, the first man was killed in the disarmament of the United States of America. So he was killed because he wouldn't give up his gun, and they killed him to take away his gun. So it has begun. Yesterday. Yes. It was on CNN. I didn't see I didn't read it yet. It just popped up on my screen and I read but I'll go look for it and I'll post it in the group.
What was that? Elder, I think that was part of the playbook down in Waco, Texas, no?
No.
No, that was different.
I think Waco, I think Advent shouldn't have guns. So they,
I was looking on the line of having guns.
God's hand of protection is removed when you're
go
trying
arm
to protect yourself.
Amen, I agree. Everyone, as we close here, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You want me to go before you? All right. This is directed to you, Elder Jones, and Elder Chamandale, Elder Forrest, and anybody here. How do we go about not throwing out the brothers and sisters? They say throw the baby out with the bathwater. The brothers who are teaching that Turkey is now the king of the north, do we disassociate ourselves with them? How do we treat them? Because when the brother, I know him well, and he never used to teach that, and now he's teaching it. So, and I know he used to teach strongly on, the papacy, and he's a strong proponent for 1888 message, Wagner and Jones. And just to see him going down this avenue now, how do we treat him?
Yeah, Brother Sinclair, that's been, been on my mind quite a bit relative to the different doctrines that is coming in amongst us. Even as we have studied before, a lot of us were on the same par with the understanding. I think that we must continue to love them, continue to pray for us, as I said earlier, to be on one accord, because there's going to be other issues too. I think that, and I looked at this very seriously when I saw the attacks come on Brother David Gates in terms of his positions and the analogies that he was drawing from AD 66, AD 70, relative to what just took place in the White House in 2015. And he was this was something that God showed him. It was a personal thing that he felt so strongly, and that he said that, he needed to mention it. We know that something of a catastrophic event is about to hit this country, even the world. And so when we look at all of the things that we're reading, even though we may not believe that or may not think in the same lines of him, what he was saying is that the attacks that he got from the brethren was not brotherly love experience. You understand what I'm saying? And so we are to once again continue to pray. I remember, when they were not all on the same accord, Peter along with Paul, Barnabas, and when they were teaching, when Peter was teaching about circumcision, the brethren didn't cut him off because the fact, that they didn't see circumcision as being the necessity for salvation. they worked with them, they prayed and they taught and they wrote letters. And I think we have to do the same thing, because these are good brothers. I mean, Brother Sinclair, they're strong, but we have to pray that God brings us through His Spirit on one accord. And I believe that that's going to happen. God's going to do that. Yeah.
Maybe you should arrange, Elder, for Brother Patrick to do a presentation on this to him.
As I shared earlier, Brother Patrick will tell you the story. He went to Brother Patrick's house and they sat down and had a good talk. So later Brother Patrick can give you more details of what took place.
Well, I think if you present the truth to a brother and they reject it, you try, you have to follow what the scripture says. Because now the sealing, one definition of the sealing is the settling down in the truth so that we cannot be removed. So at this time we can't be blown about with every wind of doctrine. We have to settle down.
And
Okay, let's have,
I just had one quick comment on that. And what I was going to say is that what makes it difficult is that in every line of truth that we have, there's a golden thread. And like if we're just looking at the idea of the King of the North, sometimes I say, well, it may not necessarily be a salvational issue if you look at it lightly on the surface, but then when you follow the golden thread of our truth, then everything line up. Like some issues we may not necessarily think is salvational because we look at it from a singular perspective, but then when we follow the golden thread of all our truth, then we find that there can be no missing piece. Everything, it's like building brick by brick. So if you miss one little piece, the whole house can collapse. So this is why this, like, sometimes it may seem like when someone go off, like you may not have love for them. It may seem like this on the surface because of the way that we believe in the truth. So how you deal with someone like that, it becomes very difficult because then it becomes relationship. You know what I'm saying? So if I have a brother, like a biological brother from my home who go off, I still love them because that love, in a sense, it's like a blood relative. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So then, that love that I would have for my brother from my own home, who may not believe in the same way that I do I still have that same love for that brother who may not necessarily come from the same home that I do? You know what I'm saying? So then this is where the love of Christ comes in, where I may not necessarily be able to bring you to my church to preach, but at the same time, I still have that burning desire to see you in the kingdom of heaven as well. So it's a very intricate situation.
You had a comment?
Well, I just wanted to say, brother, I kind of forgot my thought, but okay, the Holy Spirit. This is prophetic. It's prophetic. We're talking about Bible prophecy, and sometimes, and even though this person is someone who studied and who knows prophecy and understands prophecy, on this one matter he may not be where he should be. But that doesn't mean that he's hopeless. That doesn't mean that he's not going to come to the truth. So to cast him aside and say, well, we're at this time in prophecy, and so therefore if he hasn't gotten it by this point, so therefore, cast him aside. I believe that's just wrong, and I don't believe that's even biblical. Because he's just not there yet, but that doesn't mean he won't get there. He may not get there, but that doesn't mean that he may not also get there. It could be just that he's not understanding that prophecy at this time.
Well, that's a good point.
That's a very good point.
Now, I think we'll end up with this question. Your question?
Yeah, just a quick question on 3 decrees of Ezra. you pointed them out this morning. One in 536, 519, and 47.
Oh yeah, this is actually a Bible verse in Ezra.
Yeah. 3 verses. First call by Cyrus, second call by Darius, and the third one by Artaxerxes.
Let's read that verse because it's an important one. It's in Ezra 7. I believe 7.
Ezra 7, verse 12 and 13.
Let's see.
Ezra 7, verse 12 and 13.
Other than that, yeah. 6. It's at Ezra 6, verse 14.
Ezra 6, 14.
Ezra 6, verse 14. And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. And they built it and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. That's these three. Cyrus made this one. Darius made this one. And Artaxerxes made this one. The threefold decree to return to Jerusalem and build the city and rebuild the temple.
That kind of answered my question that I was going to ask. Because I was going to ask, why is it so significant that we use the 457 of Artaxerxes?
Yeah.
In teaching someone, why do we, how do we explain to them that we chose that particular one and not the one by Darius or the one by Cyrus?
Well, 490 years from there comes to exactly when Christ died. If you use the verse shows that after the third one it's done. If you did the second one, you'd still have a third one. And so wait till it gets finished, and then that finished one, it works out exactly 70 weeks when Stephen was stoned. In the middle of the 7th week falls on the Passover of 31 AD and 27 AD when he was baptized. It just works out perfectly.
Yeah, beautiful.
Brother Patrick, was it also the last decree of Artaxerxes was given to establish the government and rebuilding of the temple? Yeah. Okay.
They had finished the rebuilding of the temple by 519, right after Darius's, 2 years after Darius' second decree. They finished that. And that was actually in 516, which was another 70-year period from the third entrance of Nebuchadnezzar, 70 years to he destroyed the temple then, 70 years to the rebuilding of the temple. It's another kind of beautiful way the prophecy works together. We are building a spiritual temple today, built of living stones. And when it's done, Christ's work in the most holy place will be finished. Okay, we'll close with prayer together then. Sister Natasha, would you like to close first, please? Let's kneel together.
Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you for everything you have done to our life. As about to depart to go to our house, may the guardian angel guard us through the day and keep us safe, and everything we have learned about today, keep us in our memory so we can use it wisely in our life, to our family life. Help us, God, for the week. As we're about to go home, keep us safe on the road, God, and keep your guardian angel upon every single one of us, God. We not worthy to be come before you, but we pray in Jesus' name.
I want to encourage everyone to take a picture of this. That will help you to think about the message. And also we have a box. I won't sing it. But God bless. Thank you each one for coming. And